People of Reddit, what is the worst thing a therapist, psychiatrist, or mental health professional has ever said to you? You'll never do an important job like doctor, veterinarian, firefighter, lawyer, counselor, you'll probably end up in a Walmart for your whole life. I was 8 years old and still remember how mad my parents were lol. I know a dentist who became a dentist out of spite after a conversation like this with a career guidance guy in high school. You're very strong to have overcome that. I am really glad you didn't do it and hope you're in a better place. I use my creativity with art and craft as both a coping skill and as something that gives me extra purpose in life. A psychologist told me that doing so is maladaptive. I didn't go back. Art is nice and all, but, have you tried unhealthy substances like alcohol and drugs to cope with your issues? I was having panic attacks daily and the med he gave me made my anxiety worse. Turned out I just have bad reactions to SSRIs and that was all. He kept trying like a moron. Anyway, I'm in his office and he seems to be taking it personally that all the SSRIs he has put me on are giving me seriously bad side effects. Have you just given up then? The fucker asks. Do you just want to be like this the rest of your life? Obviously fucking not. That is why I'm in this office trying new medications. I was so angry and yet also having a panic attack at the same time. I ended up just walking out and finding a new psychiatrist later. Fuck that guy, sounds arrogant as hell. Can't even accept that the issue could be with his own ability as a physician or his own approach to treatment. I went to see a psychiatrist because I was having symptoms of PTSD after an abusive ex tried to kill me when I left him, then stalked me, forced his way into my apartment and raped me. The psychiatrist, an older man, told me that I needed to work on my physical appearance and demeanor to be more feminine and demure. Because quality men weren't attracted to women who looked and behaved like me, and if I ever tried to get involved in another relationship without making myself more appealing to quality men first, I'd end up right back in the same situation. That there was no point in continuing therapy because I was emotionally devoid and was wasting her time. Edited to add, it was a licensed therapist that I was referred to by my doctor after an emotional breakdown. Ironic much? Her comment came on our third appointment. We had never clicked and she had made judgmental comments about my parenting choices in the first session, so there wasn't any trust there. I've since found a new therapist who was amazing and now, 5 years on, I have left a toxic marriage, dropped 2 of the 3 meds I was taking and am loving a genuinely happy life. While her comment initially stalled me and left me feeling that there was no hope, I'm now genuinely happy and loving life. I'm also halfway through studies to be a counselor myself. Go back to work, you'll be fine, you don't need different meds. * 3 times being sent home and psych ward visit later. * You need to find religion and also buy this self-help book series that I wrote. That's called solitary confinement. I'm calling the police right now. My family's counselor, when she discovered my elementary school was locking up myself and several other students in tiny closets every day. When I was younger, my sister and mom weren't getting along and mom decided we'd see a family counselor. Most of my time with the counselor was easy-going, happy, and short as I had nothing to do with my sister and mother arguing and screaming at each other all the time. That was until she asked me how school was going and started digging into what my daily life was like. In 5th grade, I was caught trying to out one of my female teachers for verbally abusing students and cursing at us too. She used to get a rise out of berating one particularly sweet and timid girl in the class. Well, the teacher caught me recording her cursing and sent me to detention for the rest of the year. Detention equals 3 small rooms behind the principal's office, with room for just 1 student in each closet-sized cell. They would lock us in and the only time we were allowed out was for lunch or to join other classes for wall sits. In the middle of Arizona summers, we had to knock and ask to use the restroom, which was located in the principal's office area too, so no chance to see other students. Usually, one of the small rooms, as we called them, was occupied by a mentally handicapped student who would scream and bang his head on the wall. Poor kid had no clue why they were locking him in a tiny room. Oh, and if any of us were really bad, they'd turn the lights off on us until whoever was acting up would shut up. This usually made the screaming guy go berserk until he hyperventilated, passed out. Countless days spent plugging my ears and choking back tears. I eventually gouged out a small hole under the desk, which was permanently attached to the walls. I disassembled pens and would wrap a note around the ink cartridge, then pass the note in pen through the wall to whoever was on the other side. This lasted for a large part of that grade, but they eventually found the pen hole and punished all of us with more wall sits in the sun while watching everyone else play at recess. I don't know who these people were running the elementary school, but this stuff changed my perception of the world quickly. I thought I could trust anyone with authority, but after this, I pretty much laugh at anyone that thinks they have some sort of power, authority, or seniority over another human being. What absolute elitist garbage. I hate when people look down on certain jobs, especially jobs involving manual labor and customer service. That my dad was in hell after committing suicide. I was 12. I ran out of there faster than anything. So, this isn't as bad as the other replies I've read, but here's mine. When I was 11 I started feeling a lot of anxiety and fear about going to school, church, basically any place with a lot of people. My brother had been getting therapy for a while, so my parents set me up with a counselor at the same facility. The only session I went to started normally enough. We talked a bit to help me get comfortable. I described what I was experiencing, normal first season stuff. The counselor then asked me to close my eyes and imagine a situation where I felt anxious, and when I did so instructed me to find Jesus there and go to him. Now, I grew up in a religious family, and here nearly 20 years later I still believe, but that was not what I was expecting out of an alleged medical professional. Long story short, we did that and nothing else repeatedly for the rest of the hour-long session, aka eternity. For an anxious, uncomfortable child, I left with the impression that therapy was bullshit, and I didn't seek out any mental health care until I was in my 20s. Turns out I've got depression, anxiety issues, and they respond pretty well to medication. If I had had help from a young age I might have been able to develop coping skills. Instead I flunked out of college twice and developed an addiction to alcohol. Oh well, live and learn I guess. TLDR counselor tells young me to find Jesus, so I decide to just live with mentally illness most of my life. You're taking up someone else's space, and they're probably dealing with worse. Veterans Mental Health Recovery Program. When I was suicidal and reaching out. AskReddit, thanks for the support y'all. I'm doing okay now, though I did leave the program after that session. I'm AF vet in Australia, so negative to those asking if this was through the American VA system. Though, I'm sorry to hear that the resources are just as turbulent overseas. Veteran mental health is a complicated area, and not every vet went to war, or served overseas. It creates an internal hierarchy in the way we think about who has it worse and how we view the way we fit into the structure of defense. I hope those of you who had similar experiences were able to find the support that you needed, and if you haven't yet, please DM me, though may take me a while to respond. And for the friends and family of vets who have been supporting and suffering with them, what you go through is also valid. You signed up with them and it's a pain that can be hard for others to understand. That doesn't mean it matters any more or less. Cheers fam, big love. In some situations you may think this as a provider for basic community services, especially for non-compliant clients who just appear to be there for a check or because their parole officer said they had to go, or court-ordered etc., which there is some semblance of truth. But dear God, you never say it, and you may not have the rapport with the client to even know for sure in many cases. That is so unethical and extremely harmful. And just a dick move as a human being. My mom went to a therapist during my parents' divorce and he tried to coerce her into having sex with him while she was crying. She stopped crying and left immediately. Dang, they could get arrested for that I think. Did your mom find a better therapist? 14. Telling my shrink about how I was bullied in school. Do they make fun of your nose? NNNNO? And that's how I found out I have a big nose. And GT, do they make fun of your nose? And GT, and GT, and GT, and GT, NNNNO? Really? Why wouldn't they make fun of your nose? Scribbles intensely in notebook. Do you have suicidal thoughts? Me, yes. Do you have a plan for killing yourself? Me, yes. Do you feel you're a danger to yourself or will harm yourself before your next appointment? Me, yes. Great. I'll double your Prozac. See you next week. I was a nurse. I know if a patient says those sort of things it's an instant 24-hour keep in the hospital or admission for monitoring. And I wasn't joking. I meant it 100%. I never went back. Events happened that kept me from following through instantly with my plan, but I'll never forgive that bastard. I left the office thinking, welp, even a dude that's paid to care whether I live or die doesn't care. That seals the deal.